It's time to start second presentation. Let's talk about product discovery in a big platform. Ladies and gentlemen, Karol Kłaczyński.
Hello, welcome. So, great intro from Oleg to the product discovery. So we're gonna make use of that later on during the presentation. I'm Karol Kłaczynski. When Oleg was presenting, I reminded myself that I forgot about the slide about myself. So brief introduction. I'm Karol Kłaczynski, head of product and Brand24. Brand24 is an online monitoring and business intelligence tool. I'll show a bit of that later on. I joined the company July 2022, and about a year and a half ago we started doing discovery. Started is the key word because Oleg showed you a lot of things about the discovery itself, but can you do that well? I'll try to answer that question at the end of the presentation somehow. All right, so Brand24 case. So before we start, I guess it's good to have some basic rules like of the product life, in fact. Some of those were already mentioned by Oleg, but I think it's important to stress them because no matter if you're a new product, trying to build a product, or you're an existing product, those are really important. First, we are usually wrong. Generally, if you talk to anyone who's doing A/B tests, especially in a mature product, we are right when we are doing A/B tests usually around 20 to 30% of the time. So 70-80% of the time, what we think is not as it is, which means that we spend a lot of money and time on doing things that are not working. Otherwise, every startup would be successful, right? And every product decision is a bet. We're betting that this is important at this specific moment, that people want it, because we have a lot of assumptions. Assumptions already mentioned by Oleg, and that's one of the most important things when it comes to product decisions. There are lots of various assumptions, feasibility assumptions, desirability assumptions, and so on and so on. So some companies forget about that and they assume, yeah, everyone's gonna love that. We're sure, we're absolutely sure. And then no one buys that. And you spend time and money on building things that are not used by anyone. And it happens in every software company, I guess. And we have also some features that not many people are using and they are taking space in our panel and so on and so on. The customer is the most important person in the product. So no one else is going to buy your product than the customer. Like, they are number one. Your CEO, they're not going to buy the product. Okay, maybe one subscription, right? But you cannot live with one subscription. CFO, CTO, whoever, they do not buy the product. The customers buy the product. And they pay with their money, with their time, with their attention, because not every product is focused on money. Some of those products are focused on users, increasing the user base, for example, and so on and so on. And we want to achieve the business and functional outcomes rather than counting story points, right? So we are not interested in the output. We do not want to have more features, and so on. No, we want outcomes, business outcomes. We want to earn money, have more users, have higher engagement, and so on and so on. So, having those basic rules already set, that's Brand24, currently, more or less, right? So, what we do, we're trying to get the idea of who is talking about you and what is being told about, for example, a brand. Let's say Ocado Technology sets up the project, and we tell you, okay, in the news there was such a news about Ocado Technology. You can find on Instagram pictures from product peak at Ocado Technology, and so on and so on. So various sources, stuff like this. Also for personal brand management, for competition analysis, and so on and so on. Just to give you a quick sneak peek on the product, because it's going to be kind of an important later on during the presentation to imagine what we did and what we changed. All right, so what did we start with? Okay, 1.5 years ago, so it was not my very, very start. And I guess this is one of the things, it's not on the slide yet, but I guess one of the important things was that I had to build the credibility to be able to start doing things the other way that, compared to what was before. So I had to build some kind of a track record. And you have to be a bit lucky, and you have to have some kind of an intuition, right? So if you start with a small success, even a small success, it doesn't have to be big. But the bigger the success, of course, the better the track record. But for example, we implemented one feature that intuitively gave a way better look to the whole panel. And before in the company, it was like for 3 years, no, that's a lot of work. It's not gonna help us a lot, coming from other guys. And then it turned out that it was not that complex, and it made the whole panel look way, way better. And everyone was happy in the company. Okay, so huge plus from at the very beginning. So I got a bit more space to do the things my way. And that's important. And the bigger the company, the more you'll probably need that. So we started with talking to our customers, right? There's a new gate opening now. So it's very basic, but it's not that popular, which is surprising to some extent. As I learned, the people who talk to customers mostly was our sales team and customer support team, right? Sometimes the CEO, for example, with his friends, how they use Brand24, but it was very, very, let's say, disconnected. So the product team was a bit disconnected from the customers directly. How did it look like? A very standard, old school, I would say old school thing, right? So customers request a feature. Customer success team copies the text from the chat and forwards that to the product team. Product team reads it and tries to understand what's happening. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do something about that, sometimes they don't, right? And you can lose a lot of understanding over here, a lot of understanding, right? Because I had one conversation with one of the customers, and he was describing a very complex process. How, I would like to export this data so I can do this, that. And it turned out that that new tab that we were doing like a month later automated all of that he would spend like a day working on that, and it was like with a single click. But customers are not the people who are responsible for coming up with new solutions. They have needs and problems, and this is what is important to us. So, how to reach our customers, right? There was a question about how to reach the customers, how to talk about them, right? So, because our product was already running, our customers were already engaged, at least some of them, usually via our customer support team. So we talked to our customer success team because customers come up, this is not working, you should be working better. I have a feature request because it would be nice to have this and that. So we told our customer success team, hey, you know what? If somebody like this comes up to you, here's a link to my calendar. I had 2 slots at the beginning, like 2 hours on Thursday, 2 hours on Friday, so not that much. And they can just sign up for a 15-minute meeting. And it started flowing, After I think 2 or 3 weeks, I had already 3 calls scheduled, which was pretty quick. And first, it gave us a really good understanding. We started getting really good understanding of what customers need, what customers are struggling with. And secondly, if sometimes they come up and say, yeah, this is not working, this should be working better, and they are really pissed, if they offered with, we understand you, maybe you would like to talk to our product team. Maybe there's something we can do about it. Because, you know, like talking to our customer support, like this is the first time everybody can get to them. But talking to the product team directly, this is something else. So they can also release the pressure, and they are usually really nice. We had like 65 customer interviews during the last year, and I remember one of them being a bit pushy, but it was nothing really hard. They were a bit pushy, but still we were able to keep it on a proper level of culture. So what was also interesting that one of the guys even told, from the sales team, told us, you know, I was not aware that the product team is available to customers, because before it was not like that. So it's important to also know the culture of the company, like how is it working, because even though people might want to give you the access to customers, but they might not be aware that it's even possible. So spreading the news is also very important. And we were lucky because our customer success team was fine. They were totally okay with giving us the contact, with giving away a part of the relationship with the customers. In some companies, it might be harder, because if you have an account manager that is earning a lot of money based on the relationship, they might not be that eager. You need to find the reason, if you have some pushback, why those people are not willing to give you the contact, and you have to solve this problem before telling them or asking them to give you the possibility to talk to such customers. We were fortunately lucky not to have that problem. However, this does not apply to leads. Leads is a totally different story. They are not our customers yet. Please do not interfere with the whole process. We're mastering the process. We want to sell. Once they are sold, whatever. So we also trained some of our customer success people on asking the question why more frequently, because it's not always possible to get a customer on the call. So we're training them constantly not to copy-paste the feature request. Hey, the customer requested the feature X. Why? Because they need it. Why? And this is when the game starts. This is working pretty well, because they are also getting a better understanding of what people need, and they can solve the problems of the customer success of the customers better, which was kind of a byproduct, but still a cool one. So we provided some training, asking the question why. Plus, we now have a team of a few people, I guess currently 4 or 5, and we have a shared calendar. So we have same link, so we can cover more, for example, more time zones, because we have customers from all over the world. So we can cover both Asia, Europe, both Americas, and so on. And we talk to customers from Venezuela, from Argentina, from Poland, from Asian countries, and so on and so on. Lots of them, US, East Coast, West Coast, whatever. And this also gives a very broad perspective on what's happening with your platform for various customer types. So let's go on to the case. This is the case of a first change that happened after we started product discovery. It was very recent. It was pretty, let's say, radical, we can say. So I think, Oleg, you said like 5 to 8 calls, right? Should be start. So it should be enough. It started after the 7th. So after the first 7 calls, 6 customers told us that they compare a lot, especially to the competition. And you say, yeah, that's natural, right? You benchmark yourself against the competition. So that's super typical, right? However, and they did it in Brand24. It was very manual, painful, because Brand24 was not the best tool to do that. It was not very supportive. It was clunky, limited, and generally a bit of shit, you know. And one of the customers even said, you know, Brand24 is a great tool, but not for comparing. So you have need that comes up regularly for most of the customers, at least we have a pattern here, a very important pattern. This is pretty important part of their job, doing this regularly, monthly, quarterly, sometimes even weekly, or even on a daily basis, to see what the competition is doing, because everyone wants to know what the competition is doing. And Brand24 was not fulfilling this properly. So we had those assumptions from the map, and they were in the quadrant, just do it. So we did the mocks because we thought, okay, whatever we do is going to be better than what we have now. So we did the mocks, we developed it, we implemented it like within a few weeks. And on the roadmap, in the backlogs, it was nowhere to be found before. Really nowhere. Like it was not even a topic in the backlog. And the results, we try to check it regularly, but the comebacks to this tab compared to the previous version was increased by more than 100%. So at least twice as good. Really nice retention. No more comparison pain points in our interviews. Like literally, since it was implemented, no one complained about it. They were even kind of impressed. For example, there was a question, how many companies, how many other companies can I compare there? Like, it's not limited. It's optimized to 5 to 7, but it's not limited. So they were like, wow. I even heard once that the comparison tab sold Brand24 to one of the customers, which really was dear to my heart. So it was a huge difference, and you can see the new version here. Of course, there's more. It's just a small snip, but there are lots of different graphs below. And by the way, people love stars, really. Yeah, because we also did some exporting thing, and the export was without the stars to PowerPoint, and we got the first question while testing this: can we get the stars in the table? So people love stars because it shows like what's outstanding. Okay, but user interviews, that's so basic, right? What else we did? Not much. No, just joking. Okay, so apart from interviews, we try to spread the knowledge like the customer success team so they can get a better understanding of the needs, which is part of the discovery. I personally use Opportunity Solution Tree from Teresa Torres' Continuous Discovery Habits. It's not very widespread in the company, but from my point of view, it's a cool exercise for yourself, especially when it comes to assumptions, right? So you create the list of assumptions, even for yourself. When somebody comes up with an idea, and when you list those, it's like, and then you map them, you can challenge, for example, the people that are coming up to you. It's like, hey, so we assume with this solution that this is going to work. And sometimes, even when you think about this, like, no, this won't work. Okay, if this doesn't work, everything else makes absolutely no sense. So you can kill the bad ideas pretty fast, and that's very, very helpful. So we try to include more assumption testing, assumption mapping. We use the fake doors, for example. We use surveys. Because one thing important about the assumption testing is that it's not statistically correct. It's more about hints, right? A bit of an evidence. You do not get 10,000 answers because you want to be statistically correct, have everything researched, and so on and so on, because that's too time-consuming and too costly. You want hints, right? So if you have a hint in a survey that 15 people out of 100 say, yes, that's important, and I'm doing this regularly, and then you ask them during the interviews, please describe me the last time you did something, then you connect the dots, and it's coming up. Still, you can be wrong, but there's a lower probability that you're wrong. So we're moving step by step to focusing on less opportunities. We used to be doing everything at a time, a bit of everything, but now we try to keep the main directions and do additional stuff. Maybe not exceptionally, but additionally, and focus really on the main topics, and as well the opportunity solution tree is a bit helping because you have, for example, one functional goal, or at least let's call it an initiative that you can work on. And we share the findings regularly. For example, during the reviews, there's always a section, what we learned. So not only what we did, but also what we learned. And really, really interesting discussions come out of that, because people are like, oh, I didn't know that customers are doing this or that, or that many customers are not, for example, coming to the specific tab that we thought is super popular. Turns out it's not. So, challenges, right? So it's not always nice and easy. So keeping it continuous is kind of a struggle, because it's easy to, send an email to 1,000 customers, hey, would like to talk to you. Then you have 50 talks and then nothing for a year. That's easy, but keeping it continuous is really a struggle. This is why we have to remind the customer success team, hey, is there someone new that we can talk to? Do you remind the customers that there's such an option? That's the first thing. We have also a dedicated person from the product marketing, and she has a KPI on the number of customer interviews that are conducted within a quarter. It translates more or less to once a week. Of course, except holidays, because it's a different season. But generally, once a week is our minimum. And we are keeping to that. We are sticking to that usually, and it gives really, really good results. So moving on to less obvious opportunities, when I talked about the comparison tab, it was an obvious thing to do. But afterwards, when you already have those obvious things done, the smaller things are starting to play a bigger part, and it's harder to get that from the information from the customers. So you have to change a bit of your approach and, for example, focus on a very specific initiative for a given period of time, and focus on specific questions for those specific solutions for this specific initiative. Inviting the organization the whole organization to take part in the process, it's also a struggle, because usually how product teams work, especially with the discovery, which is kind of new, we can say, like it's always been there, but somewhere like not written down in a framework, and people are used to working, hey, I have an idea, it's going to be great, let's do that, right? And this is like most of the market, so it's really hard to change their mind and challenge them, because people do not like to be challenged, or provided with the data telling them, hey, you were wrong, we lost money, we lost time, right? This is not something that you want to hear. So it's not easy. So you have to do it step by step. Yeah, and finding more insights from leads and churning customers. That's really a struggle. First, leads, sales teams are not usually open to giving you access to the leads because they want to sell. After they sell, well, he's yours, right? But before we sell, that's a different story. And churning customers, they don't care. They're already off. They don't want to have anything to do with you. So yeah, I think I had 3 calls with churning customers because we offered them Amazon vouchers, $25 each. Yeah, that's a lot of money. So the thing is that those were not the ones that we wanted to talk to, in fact, because they turned like, yeah, you know, the project ended, but yeah, I'm really happy with Brand24. It's like, damn it. That was not the answer I wanted to hear, right? So getting the ones, as Oleg said, like the right customers to talk to, the right churning customers, is a struggle, and I think it's a struggle with most software products. So, how to start, except for user interviews? One small step at a time. Please do not bring revolutions to your companies, because people do not like revolutions, especially when the organization is big. Big organizations hate revolutions. So, if you want to start interviewing your customers, and you do not have access to customers, talk to a friend who is a potential customer, who is working in the similar company that your customers are in. Someone that is somewhere close, like Alex said, like search through your network. You can usually find one or two people that will tell you more or less what they are doing, what are their pains, and so on and so on. And that's a good start, right? And basing on that, you can build your track record. When you build your track record, then you'll have more space to talk to the customers. You'll have more power, in fact, to do all of that. And that's all. Question, folks.
Do you have more? Do you have more case? I love your case.
That's for the networking part.
What is the North Star of your company?
Currently, the North Star is not the North Star I would love to have. So it's MRR, monthly recurring revenue. It shouldn't be like that. But this is, I guess this is the biggest challenge of a business, to find the connection between the business outcomes, like revenue, for example, or churn, and the functional impact. And this connection is really hard, because without this connection, it's really hard to have a North Star. If I remember correctly, Slack has a North Star for onboarding. The user sends at least 3,000 messages, if I remember correctly. And we do not have that yet. We're working on that. So our North Star is monthly recurring revenue currently, but we're working on making it more functional, because without that, you have to work on the intuition when it comes to the functional impact, and that's also okay, right? To some extent.
I have following question. You mentioned you make a first success. You make a trust between your team. And how do you build trust? On what result? Because if you don't have a North Star, you mentioned you don't have any link with a financial result. How they trust you on the words? They have trust you on the numbers.
Yeah, but I was able to present the engagement numbers. And engagement is generally good, right? So if you have, the more engagement you have with the app, the better. Because intuitively, you know that if people are engaged with the app, they're going to stay longer at least, right? So this is a positive change. And the numbers were like, yeah, 100% more, which sounds good, right? And it is possible to build trust with such things, because if you do not always have, it also depends, like if the product is very mature, a bit mature, it's good analytics, bad analytics, it can happen with the bad analytics, right? And sometimes, okay, yeah, the churn dropped, and we think it's because of this change. Okay, this is kind of a track record. So it's not perfect, and it won't ever be, right?
Who conducts interviews at the company? Like, how do you divide it?
So currently in the team we have, apart from myself, one product owner, product marketing specialist, and a UX specialist. And it's always one person talking to the customer. So it's never like mob testing, so the customers do not feel attacked by a bunch of people. So it's also always a single person, and it depends like who's picked up from Calendly, basically, because it's shuffled, right? So we have our slots, and sometimes I talk more to customers. Sometimes the product marketing specialist talks more, and it's divided, not evenly, but it's divided, and we share the findings usually right after the interview.
Do you have a scenario of that interview, or you just flow?
No, that's a good question, by the way. We are not big enough to. The customer base is not big enough to tell, yeah, we want to talk to customers that are from the US, aged between 30 and 35, working as marketing managers, according to our persona, blah, 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 and so on, right? We are not able to do that because otherwise you would have 0 interviews. So we did something different. Anyone who comes up, and we have a list of what we call starting questions. So we check their profile, who they are, like industry, how long they are with the tool itself. For example, if you have a UX guy had a call today with a customer that's been with us for 2 months, so it's a perfect case to ask about onboarding, or generally ask such questions that are more about onboarding. But if you have a customer that's been with us for 3 years, like there's no point, right? Asking about such things. But if they are from a bigger company, it's a perfect case to ask, hey, tell me the last time you did a report for a marketing campaign, right? And it starts, and they say, yeah, it's super painful because I was not able to find the data, I know the hashtags are not working, blah, 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 and so on. So yeah, we usually have the list of questions, and we prepare specifically for the type of customer, plus what we want to know when it comes to the upcoming initiatives or our current product focus.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, actually, do you plan any revolution in Brand 24? So, not that I'm trying to get some insight from your company, but I'm interested more about this discovery process when you want to introduce something new to the customers, not only answer the needs or problems that they have right now with your product, but also introduce something that's gonna push you forward, right?
If we have enough evidence, then yes, but we need to gather the evidence first. Of course, there is something we call, and I call it from the previous company, we call it big bets. It's like we do not have enough evidence to say that it's going to be life-changing, but we think it's going to be life-changing, and we can afford doing that while doing other things, and it's not going to kill our company if it fails. So we have some kind of a big bets, and our current AI brand assistant was kind of a big bet because everyone was going into AI, into changing the way the interface is working with users, and we said, okay, we all feel this is the future of the user interface, how people interact with software, and we said, okay, this is our big bet. We'll be working on this constantly, of course, getting feedback, working with customers, seeing what's if there's attraction and so on. But it was very low evidence, high risk initiative that we say, okay, like we can afford that. So sometimes big bets, intuition, you have to use it as well, because otherwise we would have a single framework to rule them all and just do successful products, which is not doable.
How did that process of making the customer service asking the why questions work for you? Did you guys had like more insightful data for the product development?
I'm not sure if I understand
because you told us that you ask the customer service to ask the why question. Yeah. And how did that work for you? Because this is some kind of insight from your customers, right?
Yeah, so for example, when a customer comes up with a feature request, right? And they're trying, hey, we want this and that. Yeah. So first we did some trainings, like why it's important to ask why, showing them some examples. This worked for some of them. for some not that much. And they tend to, because they have a lot of things to do, they're used to old ways of working, so it's diminishing after some time. So we have, for example, a Slack channel for all the feature requests, and when they come up with something like that, I always answer, okay, what is the need? Why is that needed? And so on and so on. So it's a bit of a small pushback, asking them deep dive questions to get that from customers. And until I'm not stopping until I get the answer, and at some point they learn.
And was it hard to actually make them ask the question in terms of a process? Because that's actually not their business, right?
Yes, it was. It still is sometimes. But it's getting better, right? And it's in their own interest because they also understand the customers a bit better, and we create better solutions to the customers. And they are also happy, for example, because they know that when we're talking to customers, sometimes we come up, okay, I've opened up an early access for a new solution that we're working on for this customer. He or she might be interested. So it might for you, for upsell. So something that, for example, means your bonus, right? So I think the connection, and generally we're working a lot with sales and the customer success. So we have a pretty good relationship established now compared to how it was before, because there was a border. Here's the product, here's the customer success. You can send us a letter with a feature request and we'll think about it, right? So it's just destroying the border control and saying, hey, we're working towards the same goal. So it's still, they are sometimes used or, full of work because somebody's ill, somebody's off, and one person is covering two other people. And we understand that sometimes they just want the answer, right? Because they have 10 other customers asking different questions. And okay, this is the answer and that's it. But when we can afford that, we're asking a follow-up questions to get to the bottom of the need.
Okay, so my question is related to actually sales and monetizing things. Because that's in the end the goal, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay, so after interviews with clients, you knew what are the missing functionalities or what are the crucial functionalities that are missing in the product. So after delivering them or somewhere on the way, having this knowledge, have you changed the pricing model, or did you work with customer success team to change the pricing model?
It depends. It depends because sometimes the changes are, let's say, something that we believe should be a part of the standard package. So we say, okay, this is a standard package, but we know a few customers who asked about it, let them know, right? So it's like more anti-churn thing in this case. However, we usually assess, for example, if something is more premium, or if something is something that should be a standard thing, right? Because currently we do not use like add-ons, upselling, for example, which is kind of a limitation. But some things we simplified that, and we say, okay, if you're more interested in business intelligence, those are two top packages. If you're interested in more standard monitoring, those are two lower packages, right?
Okay, but even with this example, when it comes to peer analysis, so for example, having some basic functionality like, okay, up to 10 competitors, I can compare within the standard product, and up to, I don't know, without limitation, with I can pay more.
Yeah, but yeah. First we
develop the same functionality, but you just limit the options.
Yeah. No, we're not doing that much. I think we're more starting to do that. So we have some new functionalities that might work a bit like that. However, what we're trying to do, because we were more focused on sales rather than upsell. So we focused more on, for example, limiting the solutions for trial versions. We were building messaging on that. It's like, hey, you see this only for one project. If you want for more, buy a subscription on a given level, on a given package. So this is the minimum. So it's more driving towards the sales in general and selling the higher packages, let's say, for now, especially like because we have some, let's say, premium AI-based stuff. And this is always, if you go to the pricing, it's only in the top tier, let's say, packages. So it's more this direction at the moment. Yeah, but the pricing discussion is super interesting and it's not easy at all.
Last question from me. Invite us for podcast produktowy and product cafe meetup.
All right, folks. So apart from taking part and presenting stuff during such a great events like Product Peak, first thing there's also another series of meetings conducted by Poland-wide initiative called Product Cafe. And we have meetings also in Wrocław, if you're in Krakow, if you're in Warsaw, Tri-City, and Poznań. We have also events there. Everything about the product. Last week, in fact, we were talking about the prioritization. I think the next one should be around December, early December probably, in Wrocław. So stay tuned. We are on LinkedIn, so feel free to subscribe and observe. Plus, if you're interested in, if you have too much time while committing to such a beautiful office, for example, or a different office, or you're going somewhere, I'm an author of Podcast Produktowy, and I'm talking with various people about as well different things concerning the product, marketing, UX, pricing as well. There's an episode about pricing. I think the newest will be published next week about UX leaders and leadership in general.
Ladies and gentlemen, Karol Kłaczyński.